Let's get on to the show, shall we? Tonight, we have a wonderful... I told you that. Bob and Ray, two of the all-time great humorists in America, will be joining us tonight. Thank you. Paul Schaefer, ladies and gentlemen. We have a fine show for you folks tonight. If you're thinking of going to sleep, forget it. You can sleep on the job. What the hell? I know I do. My first guests are among the very few performers who are immediately identified by their first names alone, like Elvis, Sammy, or Larry. Besides this, for the last 35 years, they have been two of the most imaginative and influential comedians in show business. We're proud to welcome Bob and Ray. How do you do, sir? I understand you gentlemen are being honored with you have a retrospective at a major museum?
Yeah, the Museum of Broadcasting here in New York is going to have what is called a retrospective from June 15th to July 10th.
How does that make you guys feel?
Old.
Yeah, old.
When you looked on in retrospective ways, it makes you feel like it's time has passed by a little bit.
We used to do a thing called the trophy train. I don't know whether you remember that. We sent it all around the country. It had Ray's first pair of ice skates on it, and
my first communion suit.
Right. And people could pay 75 cents to go in and look at all this stuff.
Oh, boy.
So there's going to be a lot of that at the
that's
retrospective.
Yeah, so if people are wondering now what to do with their summer, this sounds like the perfect thing to me.
Oh, it'll be a highlight.
Yeah.
It's a good reason to come to New York.
Yeah. And that opens when?
June 15th.
June 15th.
Yeah.
You gentlemen started in local radio, huh? Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And when the things that we see you do on various shows now all look so well polished and rehearsed and so forth and tightly scripted, but they started out as improvs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the most part.
Everything we did, like our Broadway show, was all improvisational. But when we decided to do that show, we went through a lot of our old material, and we had to transcribe it onto paper from tape, so that eventually we had to memorize what we had originally ad-libbed, which is a funny turnabout, actually.
When you go through all of that, do you look at something a couple of days later and say, I don't know, it's not too strong, and eliminate it, or?
Always.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned memory. I know that you have something prepared for us this evening in the way of is this memory?
I forget.
No, memory.
We have a very distinguished gentleman. He's one of the world's famous memory experts. He's the great, what was that?
My name is Hubert R. Gruber.
I know, but weren't you billed as the great something or other?
Yes, I was known as the Great Blotto. But I'm off the stuff now.
Oh. Let's see. I know that we all remember you from the early television days and your great vaudeville act, but could you bring us up to date, tell us what you're doing currently?
Yes, currently I'm offering my services to business and industry. I help to teach young executives to have better memories.
Oh, that sounds like fascinating work.
Well, you run across a lot of meatheads, but generally it is interesting, and I find I'm able to improve, make them remember people they're introduced to.
Well, could you tell us how it works, how your system works?
Certainly. Well, suppose you're introduced to a man named Fordyce. You form a mental picture of 4 dice. Thereafter, whenever you're introduced to that man, you think of Fordyce, you remember his name.
Well, how would that work with a name like mine, Goulding, for instance?
What?
Goulding.
Well, suppose your name was Ramshot. You'd think of a hunter shooting a ram, and you'd never forget the name.
Uh-huh. Well, now, how would that work with my partner's name, Mr. Elliott?
Suppose his name was Richmond.
Oh.
You'd think of a man surrounded by wealth, a rich man.
Well, in other words, what you're telling us here is that your system doesn't work for names like Elliott and Goulding.
Yes, it does, but that's in the more advanced case, and I don't want to go into that right here on the air.
So then you're Goulding.
What?
Goulding.
Goulding, yes.
So the whole thing now is that you teach young executives how to remember names.
That's about it, and we give them a course which includes remembering long lists of numbers. That seems to help their memory a great deal. For instance, we give them a number like 351, and after a few weeks of study, they're able to read that right back to you.
351?
Oh, you've taken my course.
Well, I think our time is about up.
All right.
It's been nice talking to you, Mr. Gruber, and anytime you're in New York, please come by and
All right.
chat with us.
How do I get out? Which door was it?
Bob and Ray, we're going to pause for a commercial. We'll be right back. Paul, welcome back. Bob and Ray are with us, and in addition to the big, of course, the retrospective at the Museum of Broadcasting, you were preparing a project now for National Public Radio?
Back on the radio again, yeah. We're going to do a series beginning in October. What's called the Sunday Show.
Sunday Show.
The Sunday Show.
National Public Radio, yeah.
And I'm just taking a guess here, but beyond
You're
Sunday?
Right.
Yeah. And it's, what kind of things will we hear here?
Well, you hear a lot of old Bob and Ray Eana. We'll have like a half-hour segment in that show for the first 8 weeks. And we'll bring back, we have a new soap opera we're bringing back, or starting, I should say, called the, what is it called? You're the memory expert.
Garish Summit.
Garish Summit?
Garish Summit.
Yeah.
It's our answer to Dallas and all those other shows.
It sounds like a blockbuster.
It is, I think so.
We have also some videotape. I guess this will go along with what the folks will see at the Museum of Broadcasting. This is from a early TV show, or maybe
this goes back to 51. It's two other guys when we look at this.
Yeah.
1951, right?
1951 for a series done.
Get my glasses out to look at this.
You folks at home may want to do the same thing. Do we need to say any more about this?
No, it was one of the features that we did from time to time. Very short.
My name is Bud Sturdley. Have you ever seen me before?
No, I never have.
And have you received any remuneration for the impartial survey which we're about to conduct and which I understand you've agreed to take? Is that right?
That's right, sir, I have.
You have received no remuneration?
No, sir, I have not.
Now, sir, I suppose you're about to put your finger in the pie there.
That's right, sir, I am.
Do you put your finger in many pies?
No, sir, I do not.
Well, I have a pie over here, sir. I'm going to ask you to take your choice of which one you'll try first on this experiment.
Try my pie.
You're going to try your own pie first, all right, sir? All right, now you stuck your finger in your pie, right? Now, if you just put that down and try the pie that we have here. I'll help you. Oh. All right. Now, sir, you have tried both pies, both ours and your own. I wonder if you would give us the results of your test.
Well, I like your pie infinitely better.
You like our pie better. You found why
The crust is more crunchier.
more crunchy.
And the apples, I believe, was sliced better.
Twice better.
Has a finer aroma.
Better aroma, yeah.
And it's milder. Much milder.
Thank you very much.
That, you can't beat a mild pie, and I think I saw the hat you were wearing on the trophy train that you mentioned earlier when I came to my hometown a few years ago.
Wally Balloo's microphone is on there.
Yeah.
And a bunch of...
Was this a weekly, a daily show? Or?
Daily.
Yeah. Right out of NBC?
Right here on this, well, was it this floor?
Could have been.
I think it was.
Coast to coast, was
15
it?
minutes, coast to coast.
Yeah. And you guys were responsible for quite a lot of programming, weren't you? Several hours a week.
Oh, yeah. When we first were here at NBC, we had a network. We had an early morning local radio show from like 6 to 8:30. And then we had a network radio show from 11:15 to 11:30 in the morning. And at night, we had a coast-to-coast television show at 7 or 7:15 for 15 minutes. And then on Saturday night, we had a 1-hour radio program.
Good heavens.
I don't know how we were on that treadmill for so long, actually, but we did that for
You guys
several
were pretty much the franchise then for the network for a while.
We were presenting NBC every other time we turned around.
Does it interest you, or that your appeal has not grown through the years? It's always, well, actually, it has grown through the years.
We like to...
Yes. What I'm trying to say is they're pretty much washed up at this point. What I meant to say, as the As the years have gone by, the age group to which you appeal has always broadened. Does that make any sense to you?
Well, we should have said that the first time.
Yeah, I probably... No. Well, I think we all... Do we all understand what I meant? I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to pause here and collect ourselves, and not to mention our thoughts. We'll be back after station identification with more of Bob and Ray. Bob and Ray are with us tonight. Also coming up later in the show, Fran Lebowitz will be joining us. And before we go any farther, as they say, before they go any farther, I want to mention that your son works on our staff. Chris Elliott, right over there, is Mr. Elliott. And in fact, he's been on the program several times. That's him. Funny man, and now he's your son. He's not actually Bob and Ray's son, is he?
Oh, that's the one case where that doesn't work. we get that hang up your hat, Bob and Ray, a lot of times.
Yeah. Does he ever listen to things you do and help you write them, or?
Well, he listens to everything we do, I guess.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to say earlier. That you are one of the few acts in show business who has been very successful for a very long period of time and still seems to appeal all the time to a younger and younger audience.
Well, I hope so.
Now, you have a little... Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say anything. I was just listening.
You have a little something else you were going to do for us tonight?
Well, another guest, if you have.
Sure, I would love to have another guest.
He's a world traveler and certainly has a prominent place in the broadcasting field because he's written books. He's best of all, he's a raconteur. We know him by his dapper little trademark, a pencil-thin mustache. He is Martin Lasser, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe you could tell us how that happened, first of all, Martin.
You mean my dapper little trademark?
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't thinking while I was shaving this morning, and my dapper trademark went on the floor.
Sorry to hear about that.
Well, I called the doctor, and he said it'll grow in about 2 weeks.
Good.
So,
and Martin has canceled all other engagements until that happens, and we're very appreciative. What we want to get to is some of those stories that you tell, that only you can tell, that go over so well, stories of adventures you had.
Well,
give us one?
Sure. You know, when I first started in this business, I was a cub reporter on the old St. Paul Ledger-Dispatch, Eagle Tribune, Courier-Citizen, Daily Item, and Morning Sun.
That was a famous merger, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Well, I was in the city room there one day, and I heard the phone ring, and the other picked up the phone, and he was talking. It seems that there was a man hanging from the 15th floor of the Vaseline building. Wow. Over at 15th and Chestnut Street. So I said to the editor, I said, could I go over and cover that story?
This would be a big break for you in the newspaper game.
Oh, I don't know. So he said to me, go on over. He said, take public transportation.
So what was that?
Trolley car. So I get over there about 15 minutes later, and...
still hanging up there?
Yeah, and there's a crowd of people, policemen, firemen, fire trucks. And I said, well, look, has anybody tried to humor this man, you know? Tell him a few stories, maybe. Get his mind off his troubles and, you know, talk him back in.
Well, they do that at times like that, I've noticed.
They said, no. I said, well, would you mind if I tried?
Let me ask you this. Were you known for having a sense of humor then?
Not particularly. So I go in the building. They have the power turned off. So I have to climb up all these flights. I get up there, and there's a policeman standing outside the door of the room where he's hanging. And I said, I've been authorized to go in and talk to this gentleman. And he said, well, go ahead. And he opened the door for me. So I go in, and I go up to the window, and I said to him,
what'd you say to him?
I said to him,
well, maybe that'll come back to you, Martin. We got to move along. Remember a story you told us about fishing off the North Atlantic, off the Grand Banks? You remember that one, the fishing story?
Oh, yeah. I was doing a 1,500-word piece for a magazine on fishing in the North Atlantic.
That's a rough, rigorous, tough kind of life, isn't it?
Well, it's not for me. We're out there. It was in November, and it was cold and high seas and all. I'm sitting there, and they're dragging in all this mackerel and haddock and halibut and everything, and I look over here to the starboard, and I see this submarine surface with a foreign insignia on it.
Wow, was this wartime?
No, but I see this thing happen. So I said to the captain, I said, Captain, I said, Captain, I said,
Martin, I hate to interrupt. Do you have one story you do remember the ending to wrap it all up?
I wrote one down so I wouldn't forget it. Goes like this. Well, that's all right for you, sir, but this is Tuesday.
Ray Golding, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to pause. We'll be back to take a look at New York City's vacation paradise, Staten Island.